Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weave from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after what I truly believe is the Jets' best game of the season. I take a look at this one. It reminds me of the St. Louis Blues game that we saw a little while back. It reminds me of that second game that they played against the Dallas Stars here. One thing that seems for certain with this team is that they definitely seem to know how to play in front of this crowd, especially when it is big games. We just finished up our little Sportsnet chat there, and the one thing that I'm taking stock of here in this situation, Jets now have 2 wins over the Colorado Avalanche, 2 wins over the Dallas Stars, a win over the St. Louis Blues. Yes, they got kind of kicked around by the Minnesota Wild, and that's something that they got kicked around by the Dallas Stars in their first game against them as well, and have done pretty good against them since. But to me, the Winnipeg Jets are clearly laying claim as the early kings of the Central Division. Now, a couple things that I just loved about this performance. You take a look at this 5-on-5, which has been a struggle for them this year. They seem to finally wake up. Short-handed, they absolutely shut them out tonight. They get a goal on the power play. Their defense is firing. Their goaltending is firing. Every single thing seemed to be going with this team tonight. That's what it looks like. Because we've had a lot of games where we've looked and we've said there's this defensive bedrock that has been created by Rick Bowness that this team is trying to play off of, and it's a bedrock that is supposed to allow them to survive on nights when Connor Hellebuyck isn't at his best, when the players aren't firing. This, to me, is what it looks like when everything is firing, and they come out, they take on a somewhat depleted but definitely game team in the Colorado Avalanche. And I got to say, one of the things I liked about this, we're getting used to it kind of back in the day, with the Winnipeg Jets over the last number of years, essentially under the Paul Maurice era, of this always being just like, it's just another game and all this kind of stuff. Talked to the Colorado Avalanche head coach, Jared Bednar, before the game and said to him, this is essentially, I know no one's catching the Dallas Stars with a victory here tonight, but the Dallas Stars have played a bunch of extra games. So there is a little bit of a staking the flag as the best team in the Central at this time in this game here tonight, and asked him about that. And I said, I know there's a lot of perspective that comes with winning a Stanley Cup and being the Stanley Cup champs. And maybe part of that perspective is games like this, whatever, they're this early in the season. Maybe they're not meaningless. And he said to the contrary. These are the kind of games that you got to get up for. These are the kind of games that matter. You want to send that message of who you are. Well, asked Rick Bowness the same thing after the game, and he's like, yeah, this is not another game. And I love that. I love saying out loud the recognition by the Winnipeg Jets that this is a big game, that this matters. It's okay to say that out loud. And I think it's okay to say that out loud because the Jets know that win or lose, they're getting to the place where they can expect they're going to get a good performance in regardless, that they're not going to be letting anything down. And I love that. And I love the quote, Kenny will have the quote because he's always got the receipts. But Rick Bowness had said about this team a couple things that first period, the Jets are up 1-0. It was a little bit of it was one of those periods where maybe the Colorado Avalanche had been the better team, but the Jets came out ahead in the score. They go into the room, sit down on the bench, and Rick Bowness walks into the room and says, you guys are giving them too much respect. The Stanley Cup champs, Rick Bowness, walked in and said to the Winnipeg Jets, you guys are giving these guys too much respect. And what we saw from that point on in the game is the response of a team that has basically been challenged in a way that says, you guys, these guys are either not as good as you think they are, or they are as good as you think they are. But you guys are good enough to ride with these guys, and maybe beyond that, beyond riding with these guys, you are good enough to get past these guys. And I love that idea because you walk in and you say that you're giving them too much respect. It means as a player, your choice is to respond by saying, if I'm giving them too much respect, that I not only need to, view them in a different way, I need to elevate myself to a place where I thought these guys were. Unbelievable coaching. I think this is just another one of these situations where Rick Bowness is having just a great effect on the team. And if you want to talk about great effect on the team, let's just take a look for a second at what Rick Bowness has done with Blake Wheeler. And you know what? Ken is going to want in on this, so let's maybe not jump into that just yet. I've said a little bit of a piece here. It's time to bring Ken into the show. Let's bring in the guy with my main man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, my friend, looking dapper as usual. I know someone who looks that good has Frank's thumbprints all over them. Is that one of the new ones?
Yes, sir. It's the the brandest of the new ones on the suit side, anyways.
I like it.
Yes, sir. Yes, and we're supporting the Hockey Fights Cancer today as well. So that's always
excellent
good thing to be doing. And thank you for the ribbon. It's your ribbon and pin, but you're just a selfless person. Team player, you want to make me look good, so you have.
Well, you do that on your own, and you know who especially does it for you is our main man Frankie over at Vittorio Rossi. You want to look like Kenny and / or Renny, head on down to the boys at Vittorio Rossi Clothiers down on Corden Avenue. Go give them a visit. Go ask for Frankie. Say, give us the Kenny and Renny special, which is, you want to look as good as us. He'll make it happen. Probably better, to be honest with you. We're not much to start with. So when you're molding a lump of clay into what you see here, Frankie's the best at doing it. Ken, what do you think of that game?
Well, I mean, impressive. It's interesting. I'm interested more in the psychology than the actual play. The play in itself was very interesting, Sean. We'll start with that, and then we'll get into the post-game commentary. I've got a few thoughts on that, and I know you do as well. In terms of the play, I mean, I thought that the Jets were a little bit sluggish in the first period. They weren't, not bad by any stretch, but I think they were a little bit like what Rick Bowness likes to say. He thought they were on their heels a little bit in that game in the first period, and then they elevated the last two periods. No doubt about that. I think obviously the stars were shining brightly for the Winnipeg Jets, and a couple of just absolutely dynamite goals throughout the course of the game. Lots of competition for the Lamplighter this evening. To me, I was impressed by the goaltending, of course. But again, you look up and it's 40 saves for Connor Hellebuyck, but I don't think he was under siege by any stretch of the imagination in this game, Sean. But rock solid and very sound in a lot of ways. Again, I didn't see them as giving up. I know that the analytics said there were quite a few high danger chances, and yes, Hellebuyck was steady and solid, but I thought the Jets' structure was pretty good, and this game was really never in question. And part of the reason for that was the improved play of the penalty kill. I mean, we know the Avalanche have one of the best power play. Oh, they have the best power play in the NHL, I think, right now. The Oilers are up there too, but the Avalanche power play can be lethal. We know that they kind of left the door open on a couple occasions. The Jets had built a lead, but then they kind of left the door ajar for a power play goal to kind of get the Avalanche back into the game. But the Jets sort of stabilized, did a great job on the penalty kill. Their special teams are solid on both fronts. And man, oh man, I mean, Blake Wheeler, what a performance. We're going to get into that as we move along here. But the man is turning back the clock in the battle against Father Time. Really starting to gel once again with Mark Scheifele and Cole Perfetti. That line I thought was fantastic. One of those overlap shifts. You saw Kyle Connor with just a dynamite feed up top from the old press box. It looked like he may have waited a beat too long, but no, sir. He did not wait a beat too long. He made a perfect pass for the backdoor tap for Mark Scheifele. But, again, a lot of kind of the unsung heroes were evident, but this was a day when the stars were definitely shining, and that's one of the reasons why the Jets were able to improve to 14-6-1. They pulled within 1 point of the Dallas Stars. They continue to lead the Central Division in points percentage at the quarter point of the year, and that is an impressive feat. And let's get into it right away. I mean, Sean, you asked Rick Bowness the question What did you think of his response? I mean, we know Jared Bednar's feelings about this game. He felt it was an important one for their group, a group that had been 7-2 over their last 9 games. Even though we know they have a ton of injuries to key personnel, they were 7-2 going into the game, and the Jets kind of, quite frankly, left them behind in this game out in the final 2 periods. What did you think of Rick Bowness's response to whether it was just another game or not?
Well, we touched on that before you got into the
sorry.
show, Ken. We went in that direction. I will say this, or you know what? Before I do say that, let's get your take on that. People heard my take on it. It's good that you weren't in the green room and you can kind of give like a totally unvarnished
clean
take,
slate,
and give the people the the look at what you think about it, untouched by my opinion.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to say it right. I mean, I loved Rick Bowness's take. Make them worry about us. I mean, I love that take by Rick Bowness. And even a step further, when I asked Blake Wheeler, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to bite by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes you never know. You got to ask the question and see what happens. I asked Blake Wheeler if he thought it was a statement win for his team based on those circumstances that we were talking about. And I loved Blake's response. He basically made it sound like it was a let's act like we've been here before response, Sean, don't you think? I mean, to me, it looked like a guy who was like, yeah, that's an important win for us, but you know what? Ho-hum. We want to be an excellent team. You got to beat excellent teams if you want to be among the league leaders. And to me, that was really impressive in terms of how he handled that. In terms of Bowness, I loved what he said. I mean, I think that, all of us going into today. Oh, there you go. You're back on. You froze up a little bit for a second, my man.
I've got no internet all of a sudden. Let me find something. Keep on going, though. Sorry.
Yeah, Mike. No, I mean, so what I liked about what Rick Bowness said is that, yeah, I mean, everyone's looking at the Stanley Cup champions. And, Sean, we were in the room this morning. I mean, I was talking to Mikko Rantanen about, for my Weeb's World story for Sunday, my Sunday column. Again, he said the same thing that we heard earlier on in the year in Denver. I mean, basically every team is getting, the Avalanche are getting almost every team's best. Right? So, I mean, the Jets are trying to kind of turn the tables here. Everyone's saying, well, everyone expected the Avalanche to pick things up and then essentially skyrocket into first place. Well, Winnipeg's kind of sitting here and saying, hey, wait a second. Maybe some other teams should be paying attention to this group. And, I love that attitude. We saw it right going into the season. Sean, you asked about expectations. Bowness said they want to be a playoff team. Not just sneak into the playoffs. They want to be one of the best teams in the Central. Through 21 games, they have been that, according to their record, first in points percentage. It's been an impressive showing. I mean, we keep kind of wondering. I mean, some people are asking us almost every single day, are the Jets actually good? And you know what, Sean? This is another example of the Jets building the case that they are a good hockey team that's not just riding out a wave of 6-1 overtime play or elite level goaltending. I mean, this is a group that is clearly bought in to a system, and if they continue to play like that, they can have sustained success. I mean, it's not a guarantee of sustained success, but they are laying the foundation, and that today was another important building block in that foundation. And at least that's how I saw it.
Well, I think it's a good conversation on whether or not the Jets are for real. But that's what I love about Bowness's response to that, is saying, make them worry about us. This is a way of saying, we know that this team is good. We know that the Colorado Avalanche are set to do something this year. But this is planting the seed, right? This is staking your claim as being one of the better teams in the league. This is you putting yourself up with the Boston Bruins. This is you putting yourself up with the Vegas Golden Knights. This is you putting yourself up amongst, the Colorado Avalanche, the Dallas Stars, and the Jets are doing that. And the one thing that I love about it is the idea of that is coming out in the fact that in these big games, which Rick Bowness is not afraid to say are big games, the Jets are coming out and they're doing great. They did great against the St. Louis Blues. Did great against, and I brought it up already. Twice now they've beat the Avalanche. Twice they've beat the Dallas Stars and shown up at the right times. This is a team that is acting and showing up at the right times, the way a team that should be considered one of the best in the league is doing right now. And this is just another one of those times that they prove it. I thought that there was, Here, I'll just get this point in before we go to the Lamplighter. What I thought was really interesting here tonight is you know my thoughts in the past on teams that are like, you know what, there's a little bit of an idea that Rick Bowness is saying, let them worry about us. And that kind of sometimes can sound like what Paul Maurice used to talk about, where he was like, oh, no, we don't worry about what the other team is doing. We worry about what we're doing. But that's not how Rick Bowness works. We know that because one of the things, and I asked him a question based on it today, the Jets players will tell you Rick Bowness is really, really active at making in-game adjustments. The first intermission, the second intermission are filled with Rick Bowness going in and saying, we need to change this, we need to do this, we need to do this. Not entirely abandon your system, because clearly their system looks the same, but the little tweaks that get you by teams like that. I thought tonight the Jets were a far more disciplined team, despite the shot clock and all that. They were the far more disciplined team at picking up on the Avalanche's mistakes and capitalizing on those mistakes. And the Avalanche were just trying to do the same thing over and over again. I don't think that they were reacting to the way that the Jets played. And I think the perfect example of that is Wheeler's goal. It's a power play. The top left man on the box gives way too much room to Wheeler, and what does he do? He skates into that space and rips it. It's a goal. Boom. Wheeler's second goal is Nathan MacKinnon not hustling back into the play, and the Jets had 4 guys up. The Avalanche had 3 guys back. They thought 3 would be enough, but the Jets do a good enough job of spreading those 3 players out and getting open for Blake Wheeler. And you'll catch, like people used to talk about Mark Scheifele last year. Well, number 29 for the Colorado Avalanche gets stuck in the camera shot getting posterized because he didn't hustle back enough hard into the play. Go on.
I think he did hustle. He just did not have the head on a swivel. He was standing in a position where he could have actually got to Wheeler. I just don't think that he noticed that he was there. Now,
he hustled, but he got zoned in on the passer.
Agreed, but he did. You can't say he didn't hustle back. I mean, that I think was. Sorry, never mind. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just think that he was sort of in position, but he didn't play it properly. That's my own.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't say he didn't hustle. But I'm the same as you, because that happened to Mark Scheifele last year. I honestly looked to my right to Marat. I said, can you imagine if that was Mark Scheifele on the back check, how people would be reacting, or how they did react last season? Never mind. Sorry.
No doubt. Anyway, I just think that the Jets took what was given to them tonight, and the Colorado Avalanche didn't. I think the Colorado Avalanche tried to force their game onto the Jets, and I think this is going to be one of the beautiful things about this team underneath Rick Bowness is they are going to have a coach who prepares them well, who goes like crazy into video. And so if you are going to go up against the Jets and not make adjustments and just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, it's going to be like waves crashing into a wall. It's not going to have any kind of effect. That's what I saw tonight. And I saw the Jets responding a different way and picking apart the Colorado Avalanche and doing a great job of it. Your Lamplighter on the night, Ken.
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of great candidates, but to me it is the second of the Blake Wheeler goals. A great finish for sure by Blake Wheeler, but to me it's the pass by Perfetti that makes the play. And an awesome job by Mark Scheifele on the entry and then getting it over to Perfetti, man. I walked over to Derek Meach, former NHLer and former Jet, during the intermission because I just wanted to get his thoughts on when Perfetti would have picked up Wheeler in his peripheral vision. And even too, asking Wheeler about it after Sean Boy, oh boy, how Blake Wheeler's been one of the best passers in the NHL for about a decade plus. Man, he was thoroughly impressed by Perfetti's ability to pick up the puck, sort of transition to go wide, and then without even looking at Wheeler to draw attention to him, he waits to the perfect time, takes the puck kind of to the outside on his backhand, then drops the puck perfectly, allowing Wheeler to walk into it and bury it. Man, oh man, just an outstanding bit of vision by Perfetti. Great connection by that line overall, which I thought was fantastic. And Wheeler's second of 3 goals in what was his 4th career hat trick is my Lamplighter of the game. And I'm with you. And I T. Will, we're thinking about you. And I love the way that the chat room is responding. I mean, I hope that T. Will feels the love that is being sent his way. And we appreciate you spending some time with us on what we know are some tough circumstances for you.
Well, I'll tell you this, T. Will. I learned one of the guys who loves to be all over me on this show is a brother-in-law of a good high school friend of my wife's, and both T. Will and his brother-in-law are going to be at the Kenny and Renny Christmas party, and we're sending you the love now, T. Will. We hope you're holding on, and we'll hoist a beer in honor of your father on December 18th. Should spread the news quickly before I do our Lamplighter that our December 18th Kenny and Renny Christmas party is officially sold out. All the tickets are taken care of, but don't worry about it. If you want to come watch another live viewing of the Kenny and Renny show, that won't be our last. We're going to do it all over again on January 21st. So clear your schedule. That's a Saturday night. The Christmas party is the 18th is on a Sunday night. This will be a Saturday night, so we can probably do it up even more at that time. I just wanted to get the news out there because people have been hitting us up for tickets and people have been asking after everything's sold. They started moving earlier this morning and into the afternoon, Ken, and all of a sudden they were all gone. So mark it on your calendar, January 21st. And I would like to announce that the Lamplighter winner from last game is, give me 1 second here, is Gord Fraser. Gord Fraser. So Gord Fraser, you are officially on the clock. You have until the next game, which is not going to be until Friday, Ken? No, so yeah, Friday. You have that until then to get a hold of me. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. I need your name. I need your an email for me to send this to, and you will have a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, the nectar of the gods. People have been going in there. I got to tell you this. I was talking with one of the camera guys, one of the photographers here who shoots, and he'd said, I didn't know this, but apparently Trans-Canada Brewing Company won a competition for like the best pizza in Canada a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's got that right. I'll have to check into that. But the reason I bring it up is because whether that's happened or not, I believe it's happened because, man, oh man, that pizza is phenomenal. I keep hearing stories from a bunch of people who go in and they not only pick up their 8-pack of Lamplighter, they try some of the other beer, or they stop in for lunch and try the food. Do yourself a favor and do exactly that, because it is absolutely, there is very few misses at Trans-Canada Brewing Company, and maybe that's bad reporting for me because I haven't seen a miss yet. So maybe there's no misses. Maybe very few is over exaggerating. But if you can't wait for us to hand out your frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, head on down to Trans-Canada Brewing Company. Go check out their tap room. Awesome space. 11290 Kenaston. Gotta love that stuff. Ken, I think I'm going to go with the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. Now,
Sounds good.
This is another one of those games where, he had a shutout. Connor Hellebuyck stopped 40 shots. Maybe this is one of these plays that kind of heads in the other direction. We have seen the Jets, give up some late leads against Dallas and against Carolina, so you never know if it's happening. But that net front scramble that was driving everybody nuts because the whistle wasn't blown. I don't know what you saw. The overhead view I saw showed that the puck was indeed open.
It was, yes.
Up the entire time.
I'm shocked that it was open. So I'm with you. I'm like, how can you? There's no way that the ref can see that, except he was actually in perfect position on the net and noticed that it plinkoed around from like 6 different pairs of skates. Blocker, it hit his pad twice. People everywhere. Tried to cover it with his blocker. It couldn't happen.
Do you know the one thing that the ref did miss on that play? Did you notice?
Yeah, some Jets player covered it with his hand briefly. I think it might have been Nate Schmidt.
It was Nate Schmidt, grabbed it with his hand and moved it out. But I'll say this. It looks like a scramble, right? It looks like this terrible scramble, and the puck's everywhere. The fans are booing because they think that the whistle should be blown down. As you just pointed out, the ref actually did a phenomenal job there. But this is one of these like little things that gets lost in all of this. Connor Hellebuyck is lying there, and it looks like he's just lied and he's out of it, except his left skate and toe is welded to the post. And out of that play, the puck actually squirts and is heading in the net right on the inside of the post, and it partially gets over the line, but does not get all the way over the line because Connor Hellebuyck, in the midst of all that chaos, has his toe exactly where it needs to be to keep that puck from covering the line. That would have been a goal otherwise. This is one of these subtle plays that just show you how good of a goaltender Connor Hellebuyck is. Phenomenal stop. That is the Johnston Group we've got you covered. Play of the game, according to myself. And I got to talk about Johnston Group. You won't find two businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and Teladoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. Ken, we've waited too long. I will tell you this. We need to talk about this, and I'm glad that we ended the last show talking about it, but let's just dig into Blake Wheeler. We were giving him props last game, talking about how there's a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes that his team is seeing. We know that because they keep giving him the leather jacket. Rick Bowness expanded on that in his post-game comments. But I mean, while a hat trick speaks for itself, you've got a lot of stuff to cover here. Cover Rick Bowness, talking about what he's meant to this team, but talk about the fact that what we're seeing from Blake Wheeler has started out, I thought, at the beginning of the season, a guy going to the net front just to kind of create problems. And I thought maybe because he didn't have the wheels to do it anymore, he's sure proving myself wrong, a lot of people wrong. He looked like the Blake Wheeler of old tonight. I don't know what you thought. That's what I thought.
Well, he was moving incredibly well, and he was rewarded for that. I mean, this 19-28 of ice time today for Blake Wheeler on 25 shifts, 4 shots on goal, 5 attempts, had a blocked shot. I thought he was very active, really involved again in the offense. And I mean, you're right, Sean. I mean, I love the play by Wheeler early on. I mean, so we saw the Jets make a subtle maneuver on their power play Sunday night in Chicago. Yes, the 5-on-3 had Kyle Connor in his normal one-timer spot, but the normal power play has him on his strong side again, his left wing, and Blake back on his, traditional or more traditional spot along the right wing boards in sort of the Nick Backstrom area of the ice. Man, I love the player backed off on Wheeler. Wheeler saw an opening and he ripped it home. The next one, Wheeler doing a nice job following up the play late, gets the pass from Perfetti, buries it. On the hat, I mean, Sean, I think you must have seen the same thing. You're in that blue line north area. As soon as Mark Scheifele turned that puck over, you had to have a feeling that Blake was going to try to get the hat trick there. When Scheifele got it to Perfetti, you knew Perfetti would be looking for him, and Blake Wheeler did a nice job filling the hat. First hat trick since March 3rd of 2019, fourth of his career. Lo and behold, Blake Wheeler suddenly up to 8 goals on the Winnipeg Jets. That is, tied for third, I think, with Kyle Connor right now. He has 20. Again, it's not always about points, but you can't deny it. Blake Wheeler, 20 points in 21 games. I mean, Blake knows that producing is a big part of his job, but as you mentioned, what Rick Bowness said, what you are seeing from Blake Wheeler, that's as impressive as what he's doing on the ice in terms of his point per game production, essentially, is what he's doing on the leadership side. There's no hanging of the bottom lip. There's no, dark cloud or anger or anything like that. Blake Wheeler, as he told us, he had time to put the decision to have the captaincy strip behind him. He understood where Rick was coming from. Rick saying again, he's doing an incredible job behind the scenes. And I'm going to tell you right now, Sean, you remember this too. When Patrick Laine had the own goal in Edmonton way back in the, in time, it was Wheeler putting his arm around Laine. And again, I know that things weren't always rosy with those two. I'm not trying to pretend that it was. But what you're seeing now, the connection that Blake Wheeler is having with a young guy like Cole Perfetti, Blake was, honestly, you could tell by the reaction after the celebration, he was absolutely blown away by the ability of Perfetti to find him in the slot with that backhand pass without looking at him. Exceptional job by Perfetti. But, man, you can really tell he's kind of embraced that mentorship role with a guy like Perfetti, now playing on a line with him. He's been very complimentary from the very beginning, and, it's been impressive to watch. And the interactions that you're seeing, again, Blake is, I've said this before, Blake was not having a lot of fun at the rink the last couple of years, whether that was because of COVID or all the pressure that he put on himself with the captaincy. But the weight has been lifted. Blake is coming to the rink and enjoying himself once again, and he's performing at an exceptionally high level, especially for a guy who's 36 years old. I mean, Blake doesn't care about numbers, and he still continues to put them up, and that's part of his job. But boy, oh boy, what a stretch of, again, we talked about this before. Some nights he doesn't have those 26-year-old legs, but today he had them going. They were motoring. He was making things happen. He's doing a nice job on the penalty kill, and he continues to contribute both on and off the ice.
You know what? I went looking back, listened to the last show, which I do sometimes, and go through the comments to just kind of make sure that I didn't miss anything. I missed this one last show. Terry Trey said Scheifele-Wheels are bringing along Perfetti like they did Kyle Connor. And I'm starting to think like that is a comment that is worthy of the Home Field Dig Deeper comment. I wanted you to wax poetic on that a little bit, because this is an interesting one. I think that Cole Perfetti's skill set, the way that he plays, he was on a line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois for a while. Dubois, of course, plays a style of game that Cole Perfetti just won't be able to play at the NHL level. And I'm not sure that Cole Perfetti is a Kyle Connor style player either, in that, I don't think he's, kind of bobs and weaves the way he does. He doesn't have the speed that he does. I don't think he's opportunistic and gets in those spots. I think he's more along the lines of a Wheeler and a Scheifele. And Connor Hellebuyck said it tonight. He's always thought that Wheeler and Scheifele kind of see the game the same way. And I would argue that maybe Cole Perfetti goes in that vein. Like, he's a guy who doesn't like to play the game at the highest of speeds. He can clearly pass. He likes to confuse his opposition. And I have all the time in the world for this comment by Terry Trey when he brings up the idea of Scheifele and Wheels taking this kid under their wing and getting the best out of them the way that they were able to bring Kyle Connor along.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, but part of the reason they wanted Kyle Connor in that line, those two early on in Kyle's career, was that Kyle was a predictable player, a straight line player, thought the game really well. Obviously, he has blazing speed that Cole Perfetti does not have, but he thinks the game at exceptional level. What Cole does is play a predictable game. I do think there is some east-west in his game, and that's part of the reason why Cole is effective, his ability to kind of weave his way through traffic. He's not going to be winning foot races the way that Kyle Connor does. I would say, I don't think he has quite as good a release as Kyle Connor either. But again, this is a guy who's in the Rocket Richard Trophy considerations. 47 last year. So, I do think there is something for that comment for sure. I'm here for it. I understand completely where he's coming from. I think it's a little bit different situation, but I would say there are some parallels, which you touched on and which I'm trying to touch on here. I do think that I got some time for it. I also have some time for the other side of the equation, which is Kyle Connor being reunited with Pierre-Luc Dubois, but that just wasn't done for the sake of having that happen either. Rick Bowness saying, quite frankly, he expected that line with Perfetti, Wheeler, and Scheifele to be put together at some point. And, we wondered if maybe Cole Perfetti might find some time on a line with Dubois and Kyle Connor again, like he saw last year as well. But I like the combination the way that it is right now. I think Perfetti can help that line. I think he can play a very predictable game. He can play a game that suits well with both of those players. And, I think that, I'm not going to say it's a bigger development, but the fact that Wheeler and Scheifele are starting to play the way they once did, while also, Sean, elevating their defensive game in terms of their responsibilities. Because what was the thing that we always talked about with Wheeler and Scheifele in recent years? They were giving up as much or more than they were getting. So that's not happening right now either. They're doing a nice job in terms of playing that defensively sound and structured game, but they are playing at a very high level in terms of their offensive game as well. And obviously too, we know they can contribute to the not a lot of jokes being made from the cheap seats about empty net points for Scheifele or Wheeler right now either, Sean. a lot of those are hard 5-on-5 points that are being taken care of by both of those individuals.
No doubt, no doubt. This is the thing that I think was interesting when talking to Blake Wheeler about this, because I'd asked the idea of him getting back on a line with Mark Scheifele. And let's be honest, Ken, there'd be a lot of people in the Jets fandom. There'd be a lot of people in the local media. There'd be a lot of people in our chat room who would have probably taken a look at Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler over the last couple of years and had enough of it, right? Like, let's move on from that. I know we had those conversations. I know people said that. And to be honest with you, I looked at it and I thought those two needed to be broken up as well for exactly what you were talking about. The idea that, yes, they could still pull stuff off offensively, but defensively they were kind of getting crammed, and it just got, caught over and over again. But I thought about this and I asked Blake Wheeler about the idea of, hey, listen, we know that you've had chemistry with Mark in the past, but taking that chemistry and now adding it or applying it along with the Rick Bowness defensive system that they have going on here. And the one thing that you get time and time again, and this is a tricky thing, Ken, because players don't want to bash their old coaches, and that's not happening. No one's bashing their old coaches. But if there was a guy on this team over the years who had Paul Maurice's back, it was Blake Wheeler, right? And so you wouldn't expect Blake Wheeler to bash Paul Maurice, and he didn't. But he did go out and say that he believes that there's a renewed commitment to defense. And that's what I'm interested in seeing. The idea, and I had arrived on that idea, that we didn't need any more Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele, that those two needed to be broken up. With both those two kind of having really bought into everything that Rick Bowness does, and Mark Scheifele, having these conversations and renewing himself to defense, and Blake Wheeler, having the captaincy taken away, but still kind of staying on and staying in the fight as a leader on this team. I'm fascinated to see what this line has going forward, because what I saw tonight, I felt like we saw back in 2018. That line was dominant tonight. That line went out and showed Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, guys who we have kind of been acting as the de facto best line in hockey. There was no doubt about it in my mind. That line was the best line on the ice tonight. No doubt about it. And so if you add Cole Perfetti into that, I was wondering how that would go. But I think that you given a couple games here, now that he's understanding the way those guys play and pick up what those guys are doing as they play, not only could this be a line that, is going to be really, really hard to contend with throughout the year, but think of the education that Cole Perfetti is getting as this year goes on. I think that this has the potential to be the start of something special. I still, I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to say it. Blake Wheeler is a 36-year-old. I'm going to need to see it to believe it. Him being able to maintain that style of play, that level of play throughout the entirety of the season and into the playoffs. It's not easy to do at that age. But boy, oh boy, my interest is piqued. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen here going forward. Hey, before we go too far, give our main man, Big Lou, a shout out.
Yeah, you bet. For the folks in the chat room and for those listening on the podcast later on, if you are looking for anything in the realty realm, if you're buying, if you're selling, if you're interested in where the market is sitting, you could reach our guy Lou Furlan at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. You can reach him on mobile at 204-791-9971 or at the office at 204-989-5000. Lou is my personal realtor, and he's also an incredible human being who is very supportive of the local sports scene and also happens to be a former Vanier Cup champion with the Manitoba Bisons football team.
He's a stud, that Lou. He's an absolute stud. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead already. I didn't star it, so I'm not going to bring up the comment, but we all know what we're talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and give the Home Field Dig Deeper Award to T. Will for sharing. I can't imagine how gutted you are right now, T. Will. Like Ken said earlier on, the fact that you feel I feel honored that you feel that the chat room and our podcast here is a safe space for you to come and have that conversation and talk about your loss. That means a ton to me. We are thinking about you. The chat room is thinking about you. You've seen the comments here. Bravo to you for sharing that, T. Will. Again, can't wait to hoist a beer in honor of your father on December 18th. Ken, one thing that I thought was really interesting was how frustrated Mikko Rantanen was tonight. I thought that said a lot about the Jets game. We know that there have been a lot better of a defensive team, but there's the point where Saku Menelainen, his countryman, in that scrum, kind of tosses him to the ground, and he gets up and gives him a cross check. And then later on in the game, and this was after a scoring chance that the Colorado Avalanche had, the whistle ends up blowing, and he's heading back the other way down the ice and breaks his stick to the delight of the crowd. This is a frustrated guy. Now take a look at this. I believe going into this game, Mikko Rantanen had 29 points. It's not like this guy is, in like an 8-game pointless drought or something like that. So that says something to me. If you've been, having troubles for a number of games now and you're a scorer and you can't score, I can understand getting to that point. But in game, frustrating Mikko Rantanen, one of the greatest scorers in the NHL, to the degree that the Winnipeg Jets did tonight, I think says so much about the Winnipeg Jets defensive system and how it wears on other teams' stars.
Yeah, great point. And you're right. I mean, both McKinnon and Rantanen were frustrated clearly out there for various points. Yes, they were still able to get their looks. I mean, that's what's going to happen when you got two of the best offensively gifted players in the league. Nathan McKinnon, on a night where he's held off the board, 5 shots on goal, 9 shot attempts, Sean. For Rantanen, only 3 shots on goal, 5 attempts. I agree with you. He was definitely frustrated out there for sure. And you're right. I mean, again, this is another example. I mean, I love the passion. I mean, it's part of what makes it great. But there were tons of people in the fan base today, Sean, whether it was on social media or elsewhere, that are looking, hey, what's Rick Bowness doing? Hey, that Harkins line with Lowry and Asimont was really good the last little while. And you know what, Sean? They were good. They were good against the Chicago Blackhawks. I personally wouldn't advise having Harkins and Asimont playing head-to-head against Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen at this stage of their careers. So you can understand why Rick Bowness put Axel Jonsson-Fjällby and Saku Menelainen out on the ice. Probably, a little bit more speed, a little bit more size, a little bit more defensive awareness. Again, and that's not a knock on Harkins and Asimont. They did great in the job that they were asked to do, but they weren't going to be asked to go head-to-head with two of the best offensive players in the NHL. So, once again, the coach knows exactly what he's doing in the game. Is he going to reunite those guys in certain other matchups this homestand? Yes, probably he will. But that was a smart move, and it paid off in serious dividends for the Winnipeg Jets. Again, I'm with you, Sean. I mean, the structure was important. Again, and Hellebuyck is doing an excellent job in terms of, giving up some of the, eliminating some of those important scoring chances that are happening. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely impressed. And, again, they have to do it over a longer stretch of time. But, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they are doing things that are important. And those things are what allow them to get to this position where they are at 14-6-1. Things will get tougher. But right now, they're doing everything that they can possibly do. There are things they need to continue to work. I mean, I loved, Sean, I loved Rick Bowness's response to your question this morning when you talked about the need, Brendan Dillon telling you at 20 games, you need to be here. Rick was like, hey, man, the team has a lot to improve on in terms of their defensive structure. It's improved, vastly improved, but it still will need to improve because the games get tougher and, people will try to, there's a lot of smart coaches in the NHL. They will try to find ways to attack the Jet structure in a way that they haven't been able to do in the first quarter and change of the season. But that's where the adjustments that Rick Bowness is able to make are also important. But the biggest thing for me is the commitment to that structure, Sean. And that commitment is something that Dave Lowry was looking for and didn't ever get a full buy-in. And Paul Maurice at the end was not getting the full buy-in on either. So right now, the buy-in is happening. And when a team gets results, it's a lot easier to give the buy-in over an extended period of time. It's a hard style to play, but the Jets are being rewarded for that style. So it's impressive for sure.
Kenny, you're getting a lot of love in the chat room, as you should. Jeff Kabili says here, I do remember Kenny saying reduced time would help with Blake Wheeler. You were leading the charge on that. Well done on that. I just got to address something here. Craig Zapansky says, how many years in a row do you need to see Wheelsby appoint a game player, Renny, to give him the benefit of the doubt? Craig, Wheeler hasn't been a point per game player in the last 3 seasons and only 2 seasons in his entire career. I don't think it's crazy to think that after back-to-back 91-point seasons, his production slipping would suggest a player his age was maybe aging out of that ability. But this is just factually incorrect here, so I wanted to bring that up. And I do want to bring this up as well. All I need to do, Ken, is see the word headband, and I'm down with that. I'd love to see Lou wear a Renny headband, but in the meantime, you're going to have to put up with Renny wearing a headband. So let's make it Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Let's do it, Ken. You know, when I see that video, Ken, I always miss the flow. It would be nice to have the flow, and it makes me think one of these days we've been
You're looking sharp, buddy. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're looking sharp.
Thank you. It would be nice to get a K&R headband, and when we do, I got to try and get a headband on John Liu, because I think it would look great with that John Liu flow. It would be absolutely phenomenal stuff. And I want to give one last shout out to our sponsors on this show, and give a shout out to Cambrian Credit Union. Ken and I are both members of Cambrian Credit Union, and we've absolutely found this new website that they've put out, and their new online banking its ease of use is so unbelievably easy. It's one of the things that we love about banking with the credit union and being members. Another thing we love is the unfee accounts. We can save $222 per year. We simply set up a recurring direct deposit every month to our Cambrian checking or savings account, and we qualify. No minimum balance required. Go see the folks at Cambrian Credit Union. They know how to take great care of you. Ken, what direction do you want to go? And I'm going to give you the floor.
Yeah, let's quickly go to I know it's our favorite topic on this show, but I think we should just quickly discuss the disallowed goal for the coach's challenge. I'd like to get your view, and then I'll be happy to weigh in afterward.
You're not going to like my view, and you're not going to. The chat room's not going to like the view.
How do
either.
you know? I'd be fine with your view if it's
okay.
A measured take this time.
Okay. Hey, it was a measured take last time. It was a great take, courageous take, I would even say. It was the right call once again. And at the beginning, I thought it was ridiculous. And then when I saw, so Blake Wheeler tries to thread the needle in between the defender and the goaltender, right? And in doing so, he does enter the crease. And as the goaltender goes to make the play, the shot is going to the post on his blocker side. He goes to move his blocker, and he can't get his blocker to where the puck is because Blake Wheeler is in the way. Now, if Blake Wheeler is inches from where he is and entirely out of the crease, to me, it's a good goal, and there's no problem with it. But this is why this rule exists. I can't go into the goaltender's crease and stand there and a pass go across and keep him from getting to the other side of the net to stop it. You're not allowed to impede the progress of a goaltender trying to make a save when you are in his crease. So what happens is the goaltender, in reaching with his blocker and realizing he can't get his blocker there because Blake Wheeler is there, he turns and throws his arm around behind him to try and get his glove on the puck because he can't get his blocker there because Wheeler's in the way. In doing so, he throws himself out of position, because I was looking and being like, how did this guy get so twisted up like a pretzel? You could see it when they first made the call. When Jared Bednar made the call, I thought this is going to be a bad situation. The Avs are going to be going down. Not only are they going to get scored on, but they're going to go a man down, and the Jets are going to have a power play, and they're on fire tonight. I think this is going to be a watershed moment in the game. But when I saw it on instant replay, with the benefit of instant replay, I thought the refs got that call right, as they did get the call right by not blowing the whistle in that scrum. The puck was free the whole time. This is another night where the Jets got it right. Or sorry, where the refs got it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this is my explanation to people. I mean, people that were baffled in the press box. To me, Jamie Benn's path towards Connor Hellebuyck was pretty clear, even though Morrissey did push him, and I understand that. Blake coming from behind the net, you're right. I mean, he was trying to find a little bit of a sliver. I think he started outside the blue paint for sure, but once he collided with Eric Johnson, that's what kind of pushed him either on the periphery or on the edge of the blue paint. So to me, I do think there was some incidental foot contact. And again, I understand why it was disallowed. I'm not 100% sure it was. To me, it was right in the middle of the gray area. And one thing too, our buddy Jeff Hamilton was wondering, shouldn't Georgiev have had time? I mean, by the time, here's my argument. I think this is what Blake's thing was also. After the puck goes off the post, I don't think Georgiev knows where. I don't think it has anything to do with the incidental foot contact. I think he's swimming and has no idea where the puck is. So
the thing is, though, he's swimming. The reason he's swimming is because he goes to try and make the save with the blocker, and because he can't get his blocker there, he's fighting on the play and throws his arm behind him to try and make a behind the back save. Oh, okay. And in doing that, throws his body into a twist. So he's swimming, no doubt. And I remembered at the beginning of it thinking, like, what's this goaltender doing? And again, before seeing the Jumbotron in the replay, I thought it was a terrible call by them. But here's the thing, is he's swimming because he can't get to where he needs to go, and he can't get to where he needs to go because Blake Wheeler's in the way. And I say this, Blake Wheeler's 2 inches away from it being like, too bad, I can go in whatever ice I want as long as it's outside of the crease. If you need to go outside of the crease to make a save, that's your problem. This ice is mine as much as it is yours, but the way the NHL rules work is the ice in the crease is the goalie's before it's Blake Wheeler's, and that's why the play gets called.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting. Like I said, it was one of those tight calls, and again, Jared Bednar knows the risks associated with that being wrong, right? I mean, if that's wrong, if he's wrong, he's got a big problem, right? So,
Grant Braun says the goalie made a big show of it. I've got all the time in the world for this argument. Like, Georgiev was like flying all over the place. So I'm not saying that this didn't happen. I've got all the time in the world for this argument. So
and the other part too, and I think, Sean, you touched on it the other day in Minnesota, when the eye contact between Rick Bowness and Connor Hellebuyck happened on the 6-1 goal. Georgiev right away looked at the bench. Like, he kind of gave it the old one of these with his stick. He's kind of like, come on, like that had to be an issue that maybe requires goalie interference. Like I said, I wouldn't say it was definitive that I would have said it was obviously goalie interference. This is another kind of gray area special. But hey, I mean, there was definitely contact. And I tweeted right away when the goal was scored. I'm like, I think the Avalanche are going to look to challenge for goalie interference. So, anyways, let's go on to what else do we have today that we need to dig into in the last 7 minutes here.
Well, how about Morgan Barron moving up?
Well, he moved up, and then he kind of in the third period, he went back to Axel Jonsson-Fjällby there. So anyways, it's interesting. I mean, Jets have a lot of faith in Barron. I thought he was steady in his first game back on the fourth line. I wonder if it was more of a minutes thing, Sean. I mean, he still played 21 shifts for 16:02. But again, even though Barron was able to skate, it was 2 weeks after the wrist surgery he got back onto the ice. I spoke with Barron this morning. But he hasn't really, he can't be in game shape without playing games. So it's a second game back. And when you're playing a team that plays at hyper speed, like the Avalanche do when they're at, full capacity with all their, non-injured players, you need to have that speed. And I like Barron there as, he's a little bit more of an offensively gifted option compared to Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. But man, Jonsson-Fjällby got moved back up there, Sean, in the third, and you saw that tenacity again. You saw him a little bit more effective on the forecheck. But I think it's worth looking a little bit more, Sean, in terms of seeing if Morgan Barron can have an impact on that line as a solution, band-aid solution, if you will. But again, I mean, it wasn't a crazy great effort, but he still managed 2 shots on goal. I like his board battles. I liked his ability to, he hangs on to the puck a little bit more than a guy like Axel Jonsson-Fjällby as well. So I think there has the potential to be some chemistry there. But I think the other thing you got to realize, Barron hasn't spent a lot of time. Yes, he is a versatile guy. He played center, he played left wing. Probably hasn't played a whole lot of right wing. And he hasn't had a lot of practice time that's lasted a while here. So to me, I think it's something that deserves a little bit more of a longer look in terms of seeing if it's going to be an option. What do you think?
You know what? This is the one thing that okay, so we talked about this, and I talked it on the CJOB pregame show. I think that moving the lineup around, like the Jets go and they just absolutely destroy the Chicago Blackhawks, and then entirely turn their lineup around, right? And it does seem a little bit odd, because usually coaches like to stick with the line that, with the lineup that did so well for them, right? But I'm okay with this. I'm okay with him doing that, because what I think is Rick Bowness is showing time and time again that he's got confidence with this team no matter what, no matter who's anywhere. And I love that idea that he's going to go out and they're going to have a 7-2 victory, and then he's going to walk out after that and he's going to change stuff up, because he's like, well, yeah, you did good, great job, we appreciate it. And we know Rick Bowness has a way of taking these guys and getting them motivated. So he does. I don't think Rick Bowness needs to worry about a guy saying, I went up and I played great on that line, and what, I don't get another opportunity. I think he says, listen, we've tried you out. We know what you're doing. Now your job is to go where we tell you and give the best in that spot. And he's got everyone bought into that. So since he has the buy-in, he can make changes like he did tonight. And he can do so, I think, without ruffling feathers and by kind of sharing these really big opportunities around. I think one thing he's got with that is there's such good chemistry between Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois that I think he kind of feels like you can put anyone on that line, and those two are still going to get enough accomplished with each other. Didn't necessarily happen tonight, but the expectation is they'll get something done, and that you can take and throw a bone to Saku-Maenalainen, Morgan Barron, maybe well, we know Janssen Fialbi, but a Harkins or something like that. And you can throw those guys a bone and say, hey, we've given you opportunities in the top six. And he said that about Morgan Barron. He said he earned that responsibility to go up into the top six. I don't know that I would stick with it again tonight, because here's what I think. I think if you keep him there in a spot like that, if you go back to Morgan Barron in that spot, what you're saying to him is, yeesh, it didn't go exactly how we thought, and maybe you didn't have the best game, so we're going to keep you here to try and build your confidence. I think Rick's ability to take guys and be like, you had an opportunity, it didn't necessarily work out, but it's not going to be your last opportunity there. In the meantime, we're going to go put you in places that you've had a lot of success so far, and we're going to go back and try these roles, because in the end, Ken, he's not staying up in the top six. Nick Ehlers is coming back and taking that spot. So you don't need to coach Morgan Barron into staying in that spot. He is eventually going to go down and work, those lower, the bottom six. So moving him back into the bottom six is no punishment. And I don't think he needs to look at it as a failure. He had success just the game before. I think he's putting him down and saying, you don't need to be in the top six to be confident in getting something out of yourself. You're going to be just fine. I think Rick Bowness just does a phenomenal job of taking every kind of potential problem and turning it into an opportunity. And I think we've seen that, go right back to Harkins getting sent down. Had a great conversation with Brendan Dillon. Okay, I'm going to share this. I don't even think I talked with you about this earlier on. I had a really great conversation with Brendan Dillon, in which he said to me, Rick Bowness has just done this really, really good job of selling everybody on their roles. And it doesn't mean your role stays the same, but it's you are given a role on a specific night. That's your role. Take pride in that role. Do your best in that role. And he said, Jansen Harkins is maybe a guy who in camp didn't really get that. This is a guy who's trying to become Mark Scheifele or those players. That's what he's trying. That's the place that he's trying to get to. And Rick Bowness in camp was asking him to do something else. And Brendan Dillon had figured maybe, just maybe, he didn't really accept that role. And what happened out of him not accepting that role is he didn't fit in camp. He went down, but he came back up and since has accepted the role that's been given to him. And that, I would suggest, out of the mouth of Brendan Dillon, is the greatest accomplishment of Rick Bowness this year, is he walks in and he says, everyone's got an identity on a night. Sometimes that identity is going to change like it did with Morgan Barron tonight. But when I give you an identity, you take pride in that identity and you do the best you can with that identity. He touched on it a little bit. I think it was a question of yours, I'm not sure, about Cole Perfetti tonight, and said, Cole Perfetti had a bad game or something like that. And the message to him was, be a good pro. It's not always going to be your way, but when it doesn't go your way, come back, work hard, and be a good pro. That's what's happening here. Rick Bowness has created a structure that works. That structure has different pieces, which each have their own identity, and he's asking players to accept whatever identity they're given on that night, and they're doing that. And that, Ken, is the secret sauce of why the Jets are so successful this year.
Yeah, bang on, and it's an important part of the deal. I mean, people know it's a hard league, right? Because everyone wants more, right? But when you are assigned a role and you embrace the role, then you can have success, right? And then you've talked about this for years, Sean. Under this system where Rick Bowness is empowering players, everyone feels like they're part of it, right? I mean, before it was, if you played on the fourth line, well, you know what? You're probably going to play 4 to 5 minutes. Right now, if you're on the fourth line, you probably figure you're going to play 7 to 10 minutes, and you're probably contributing to the penalty kill. Like what Rick Bowness talked about, Dominic Toninato came into the lineup, did a nice job. Hey, guess what? David Gustafson's a better penalty killer than you are right now, Dominic. Thank you for your contributions. Stay ready. And David is going to return to the lineup. So, again, Morgan Barron missed 10 games. So, am I surprised that, he didn't play 20 minutes tonight? Of course not. It was okay, but it wasn't great. So, he switched things up a little bit. Sorry, I got to just quickly say something to Mal Paris here. Mal, remember when Ken Reeves said they were going to trade Wheeler? And if they didn't, they would need to improve the forward group. July 11th. Blake Wheeler openly admitted he was talking to the Jets about a trade. I didn't say definitively that Wheeler would be gone. I said there were discussions about Wheeler being in the mix to be moved. That's accurate. It's still accurate. And the Jets did need to improve the forward group. And they did improve the forward group, but not with the type of players we anticipated by getting Saku Menelainen and Sam Gagner and guys of that nature. So, and also one quick one for Rob Mahoney. Rob, yes, I already mentioned that Wheeler was 19 plus tonight. That's true. He's down 2 minutes on average for the season in terms of time on ice. So my receipts are just fine. Today his minutes were up. For the majority of the year, his minutes have been down roughly 2 minutes. I just wrote about Blake Wheeler. I did my homework. I got the receipts. So I appreciate you holding me accountable, but I'm not wrong in this case. And I did say today that he had 19 minutes. And that was more of an exception than the rule this year. Blake has earned those minutes, but a lot of nights he's played in that 16 to 18 minute range, where last year he was consistently at 20 and above.
Okay, it's time to wrap it up here. I just wanted to say once again, we really appreciate all the people who have bought tickets for the Kenny and Renny live show. We can't wait to meet with you. I'm so excited that we can announce that we sold it out, the December Christmas show, before we even got to November. That means a ton to us. We appreciate so much that you want to spend the time with us, because we want to spend the time with you. And that goes for you in the chat room as well. We had over 400 here tonight. People are getting excited about the Jets, and they should be. I think they have every reason to be excited about it, but we love that you take that excitement and bring it to us and apply it to our show. It means a ton to us. And of course, it always means a ton to us that our sponsors have our backs. I've said it once, I'll say it every single show. If you enjoy and appreciate the conversations that are happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who invest in keeping these conversations. And that would include Vittorio Rossi, the people at TransCanada Brewing, the Johnston Group, Big Lou Furlan, Home Field, and of course, Cambrian Credit Union. Thank you so much. Couple days off here on the clock. Sorry, who did I say was on the clock for the victory? Gord Fraser, you're on the clock for your 8-pack of Frosty Delicious Lamplighter Ale. Get a hold of me at SN Sean Reynolds. Other than that, everybody, we really appreciate your time. Can't wait to do this with you again on Friday.